Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Adoctorsjourney Podcast, navigating life and medicine with coaching and healthcare innovation. And I'm your host, Miguel Villagra, certified life coach, positive intelligence coach. And in this episode, we're going to have an amazing guest. His name is Dr. Uli Chettipally. He is the founder of the InnovatorMD platform, a disruptive platform for healthcare innovators in the United States. And he is also the CEO of Sirica Therapeutics. I'm very grateful of having him as an amazing guest today for our podcast episode. Uli, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Miguel. Thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to always, it's great to chat with you.
Fantastic. In this podcast, we try to bring healthcare innovations to share their journeys. And I think there's always an impact. Oftentimes, I believe that it can even spark ideas of anyone that is interested to even getting started. I want to see if I can hear some reflections about your journey, about your background training, how you get into the healthcare innovation space, and some pills of nuggets on your journey.
Sure, I'd be happy to share that. So I am trained as an emergency physician in Los Angeles and also have an MPH in epidemiology from UCLA. So my first job when I was looking for an attending job was at Kaiser Permanente in South San Francisco. It was a great atmosphere and great environment. I loved the San Francisco area, the Bay Area. So my initial career started off as an administrative physician, right, with my MPH, and I was the assistant chief quality, and then later on became the chairman of the department. I ran the department for several years. But there was one pivotal point that happened. Some of our friends came to me and said, hey, let's do a healthcare startup. Living in Silicon Valley, every other person in your block has a startup, right? And this was during the dot-com boom times. And so I said, sure, let me check with my boss. And I got a year sabbatical from my job and I jumped in. And we did the startup, raised $500,000. And I got really excited about possibility of technology changing healthcare. Of course, the startup didn't go anywhere. It crashed with the market, but I got that idea, that bug of technology and entrepreneurship and innovation. When I went back to my job, I switched gears and went into research. And this was the time when electronic health records were being introduced and Kaiser became paperless. So all the records were digitized and we had a huge amount of data in the EHR database. So that's when I started thinking, what can we do with all this data that is collecting about patients? How can we make that data useful for physicians and also for patients? How can we improve the outcomes for patients? And that was the journey I started while after getting some grants, and we built a platform, started creating modules for clinical decision support that can help physicians make the right decisions based on data. So that's how my journey, the technology side and then the innovation side started. And we were very successful with that, where we developed these modules for congestive heart failure, chest pain, atrial fibrillation, head injury, abdominal pain, all these conditions. Physicians were able to quickly understand the risk of these patients that are entering the emergency department so that they can fine-tune and customize the workups and disposition based on the patient's risk of having a bad outcome. So this system allowed physicians to get insight into a patient's risks based on 100,000 other patients that came in before this specific patient with the same complaint. So you can look back, retrospective technology can do that, look back and analyze the population that comes to your emergency department. And based on that analysis, you can apply that risk category to this specific patient. And based on that, you can figure out the workup, figure out the disposition, whether patient needs to be admitted or not, whether outpatient testing is needed or things like that. So that was a big hit. And we published about 100 papers out of that work. The group is 14, 15 physician scientists right now. And the work continues in 21 emergency departments in Northern California.
That is fascinating. And I wanted to touch base with you about clinical decision tools And what do you see the role of artificial intelligence within this landscape of any clinical enhancement or decision tool for frontline providers?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So if you think about how physicians learn and how physicians make decisions, right? Let's say we have seen 20 cases of appendicitis in the last 2-3 years. And you remember those cases, but the most recent ones you remember more. So based on those findings, you make a decision on your next patient. And that's how your brain keeps track of what you have seen, what you have learned, and then will help you make a better decision on the next one. Now imagine if you have seen 100,000 patients and you can remember everything about those 100,000 patients. How will your decision be different? Of course, human brain may not be able to do that, but we have technology right now. Technology can do that. And so your decision making is enhanced. So when people talk about AI and how technology can help, that is the most powerful thing. It's different in the sense that physicians as human beings have certain sense while looking at the patient. You get a gut feeling. You have a hunch. You have certain assessment of the patient, which is very different from how technology and data can come up with a decision. These two are two different ways of decision making. We need both. And that's why I recommend that all physicians need to understand this other side of things. How is your population in South San Francisco different from where you learned the science from? Let's say you learned it from the studies that were done in Canada, that were done on the East Coast, that were done in China. Your patients are very different from all these other patients where the clinical trials have been done, where data have been collected, where the knowledge went into the textbook that you studied. But what you're seeing in front of you may be very different population with very different outcomes. And so it's very important when you're talking about technology that the technology uses your own data, your own population around which you're practicing. So taking those insights from hundreds of thousands, even millions of patients that have come before this particular patient is very eye-opening and also very helpful for the physician to use those kinds of tools. Of course, we have the tools. We have wonderful tools available. We just have to learn how to use them and how to make the best use of them.
Yeah, I think that is fantastic. The way I see it, to me, is no matter how much the database that we're creating and expediting the collection of that data and the way we're analyzing the data, you always need that critical thinker that will use that data to ultimately determine what is the best course of action for your patient. Yeah. And I think that I love that idea of blending both. The way I see it is enhancement. That's the word I like. It will enhance the clinical tools that you have at your disposition when you're managing your patients in the best way possible.
It's like GPS, right? You have GPS. You make the decision whether to go on that road or not. You can decide to take a side road because you can see that the conditions on that road are changing. Although the GPS says you should go that way, maybe there's more traffic. Maybe there's an accident there that just happened, right? So you have to take a detour, and that is the human intuition that comes into play. But the data suggests that, you should go straight, and that's the shortest way. So that's how I compare the two ways of decision making.
That is fantastic. So I'm going to take a detour to talk a little bit about a network. For me, my rule of thumb has been data that my net worth depends on my network. And having supportive communities that kind of help you in this journey of entrepreneurship that is so hard and challenging, it's important. You founded this amazing platform called the InnovatorMD, and you nurture a lot of healthcare innovators. So it just fascinates me when I come entrepreneurs that have done something like this. And I want to ask you to share your insights about first, why building the InnovatorMD first, and when you first started, what you thought you were building, how this has evolved over time.
Yes. During my career, I've seen that there's a big disconnect between how physicians practice, the problems that they're seeing, and the solutions that are coming into the market. For example, a great example is the EHR. EHR was so hard for physicians to implement and use it because for them, it doesn't make any sense. Why should I do all these? Why should I click so many times? It felt very irrelevant. And so that disconnect between physician practice and technology, or for that matter, any technology tool that you take, there's always this disconnect. I had a strong feeling that if physicians invented an EHR, how would that be different, right? Physicians, nurses, pharmacists, whoever, the frontline people, they see the problems firsthand and they come up with solutions. And those solutions are very different from an engineer coming up with a solution, right? Or a lawyer or a businessman coming up with a solution. I felt that physicians and patients, that relationship is very sacred. And those are the two components of healthcare that are constant, that need to be the center of everything. Now imagine, you can take out any piece of healthcare, but these two pieces you cannot, there's no healthcare. If you take out patients, or if you take out physicians, there's no healthcare. That means that physicians are seeing these problems. Physicians are trained in the science of medicine, so they come up with better solutions if given an opportunity. The problem is physicians don't know how to do it. They don't have the time to do it. They don't have a network to do it. Who should they go talk if they have an idea? And they don't have the resources. Okay, you need to join the accelerator, or you need to build this thing, or you need these technologies, or you need this finance person. So all those things, it doesn't happen. And if they try to do it by themselves, all alone, the chances of failure are much higher compared to if you're doing it in a community, getting all the help you need, all the pieces that you need to build whatever you're building. And also, there's a huge learning gap, right? When you're practicing, you're just practicing, but when you're building an innovation or a startup, the skill set and the knowledge set is very different. So that you can only get when there are people, mentors, when there's a network, when there are other people who have gone before you, and they will tell you about all the mistakes they made so that you don't have to make those mistakes. So I say, see many, and then you learn from there, and then you can build your startup, your innovation based on that. That's the reason why I built InnovatorMD, because I wanted to support physicians who are doing innovative things. And physicians who innovate, they come up with amazing solutions, tools, technology, which nobody will be able to think about those things because they are right in the middle of this challenging environment where they are forced to think about solutions if they are given time, opportunity, and a network to be able to do that. That's the reason why I built it. I wanted physicians to lead the change, to be able to make healthcare better for themselves and their patients. Because who else can understand patients better than physicians? Nobody else. Physicians, nurses, whoever is interfacing, spending a lot of time with patients, those are the ones who understand the problems. And then with physicians' knowledge of medicine and the science of medicine, they can come up with legit solutions, not just a Band-Aid or not just something that does not fix the core problem that they are seeing.
I think that's a great mission. And that's part of what I actually start doing this podcast, to make more available for frontline providers, because I do agree with you. There is a gap between healthcare innovation and frontline providers that are seeing firsthand the challenge, the problems, the lack of efficiency, and I will say the opportunities for even building solutions for those problems. And I think that to some extent, and there is backup research that digital health startup in healthcare, when they have early physician involvement, they has more chances of success. And oftentimes, this is opportunity that a lot of physicians don't even know about. And having the InnovatorMD as a platform of example where they can see, they can connect with those startups and build those relationships, at any stage of your career, it's important. On the flip side, though, I want to get a little more deeper into healthcare innovation, because oftentimes I coach physicians that are interested in entrepreneurship. And one of the things that is important is to put out there is to have also realistic expectation of about what that means. Because oftentimes physicians are coming from a position of burnout, dissatisfaction, and they just want to do something out of medicine or in medicine, but out of their current employers. And the first thing from the coaching perspective is we want to try to change that mindset, because you're not going to make the best decision for you if you're coming from a position of burnout, dissatisfaction, frustration, and things like that. But on the flip side, it's important to understand what you're getting into if you are entertaining entrepreneurship more, if we're talking about building your own healthcare startup. So I want to hear your insights on that.
Sure. You're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. Are you running away from something, or are you running towards something? Are you running towards something attractive, something interesting, something wonderful that you're going to do, versus you running away from a miserable spot where you are in your career? Always be very cautious. You don't have to jump with both feet in. That's not the way to do it, because when you try to run away, you'll be running away into something not as desirable as you think it is. With caution, what I would say is learn as much as you can, see as much as you can, talk with a lot of people. So take your time. There's no deadlines here. So do it gradually while you still have a job, while you still have income. Because once you lose the physician income, you're not going to get that anywhere else. The startup is not going to pay you a physician salary. I want people to not think about the money part, but think about the innovation part. But it is fun. Of course, you could potentially make money, but that should not be the main goal when you're doing innovation. You're doing innovation to help people to solve a problem for a huge population. Take your time, do your research, join a network like InnovatorMD. I want to plug in. And learn from others. Every week we have events and we have experts coming in. We have master classes. We have startup showcases where you can see other startups. What are they doing? How are they doing? And make friends with them, chat with them, ask them questions and learn, see what is available out there, what people are doing, what are the pitfalls, what are the things you should not do. And then gradually get into maybe an advisory role, maybe as a mentor, maybe as an investor, where you're dipping your toe into the water to see how it feels, right? And then as you learn from that experience or experiences, because you can do multiple things, small things, part-time things, as you're gaining more and more experience, and then you start gaining more confidence. And then if you have a really brilliant idea that you think the market needs and somebody is going to pay for it, that's when you get into spend more time on that. But I would say take your time, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, there's no deadline. So you learn as much as you can until you're comfortable and until you find that one thing that you're going to dedicate the next 5 to 10 years of your life and is so important to you that you're going to make it happen. That's when you get into full entrepreneurship.
Fantastic. That is a great advice. I'm going to take a segue to touch base on Sirica Therapeutics. And I want you to tell me a little bit about it. That's another topic that really fascinated me, the gamification, right? For learning, but now even for treatment purposes. Tell me a little bit about that.
So Sirica Therapeutics is that one thing that I found that I can make a difference. If I cannot make a difference, if I cannot bring this vision to reality, it may not happen. So in the background, I have a daughter with autism. Her name is Siri. And throughout my professional career, I was looking for innovations in this space. What does the new research say? What does the new thing say? And it's very disappointing in a way because not much is happening. Although it is the fastest growing condition, neurodevelopmental condition in children. It's growing at a rate of 8 to 10%, but there are not many solutions at all, especially for the older kids and adults. And so when I found this technology and I thought, okay, this will work. Based on my experience looking at my daughter, based on my experience looking at other children, other with autism, based on my research background and the research I did to see what is out there, what are the solutions out there. I think what we came up with is a technology system where you're using virtual reality, video gaming, and robotics. You are challenging not only the brain, but also the body. It's an exercise machine, but it takes you into a deeply immersive state and challenges your brain and your body. When you do that, our hypothesis is that when you do that, you are creating an environment for neuroplasticity. And that's where we think the improvement in the functioning, in the behaviors, in the focus, in the sleep, that we will see based on this intervention. And that's what we are building at Sirica Therapeutics.
That is very fantastic. So as we wrap up the episodes, I want to hear some insight that you might have for any physician interested in entrepreneurship and digital healthcare innovation. What would you tell them?
Entrepreneurship is very hard. The reason for that is there are a lot of things that need to fall into place, that you need to do it right to be able to go to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, right? Let's say there are 10 startups, maybe 3 will survive after 3-4 years. Maybe 1 will be a big hit, right? When you go into entrepreneurship, you have to have the risk analysis, the picture that, okay, whatever you're going to do, it may not survive, but you have to learn all the steps that goes into it. So learning is the key to increase your chances of success, right? And also getting experience, whether as an investor, whether as an advisor, whether as a consultant, something, the experience helps decrease those risks. And so I would say, do it slowly, but do it deliberately, right? Do it slowly, get into understanding how it works. And then once you find it, do it deliberately. Go in with full force and make it happen.
That's an amazing advice. And thank you everybody for listening or watching a new episode of Adoctorsjourney Podcast. I just want to finish in mentioning that Uli and I, we have a partnership for a digital online course for any physician interested in getting started in the digital health space. So we're going to add those links below. This is a partnership between Adoctorsjourney and the Healthcare Innovator MD platform. So if anyone is interested, please reach out and we will have the link in the description of today's episodes. Until next time, thank you, Uli.
Thank you very much, Miguel. I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and it's so needed for our physician community. So kudos to you and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.